Our protagonist is Genzo, a powerful and famous pro wrestler. Right now, he's preparing for the final match of his career before retiring to fulfill a dream, opening a pet shop simply because he loves animals. During his last match, against a tough opponent, Genzo and his beloved dog are suddenly transported to another world. There, he meets a princess, soldiers, and royal advisors. The princess pleads for his help to defeat monsters and the Demon King. However, the moment she mentions killing animals, Genzo flies into a rage. He delivers a devastating "The Man Super Slam" to the princess, knocking her out cold. The advisors and soldiers, assuming he's angry about being summoned, try to calm him down. Realizing he may have gone overboard, Genzo gently covers the unconscious princess with his cloak. But to the soldiers, it looks like an act of disrespect. They surround him. With no other choice, Genzo leaps through a window and escapes. Out on the streets, people mistake him for a pervert and keep their distance. This makes it difficult for him to ask for directions. Thinking it might be the mask he's wearing, he takes it off only to immediately be chased by guards, forcing him to hide in an alley. There, he has a heart-to-heart with his dog, reaffirming that as long as they're together, he'll never feel alone. Just then, he encounters two Beastgirl, a girl named Misa and her older brother-like companion. The two plan to trick and sell him. But Genzo, seeing them as animals whether Beastgirl or not, enters an excited frenzy. He lunges at the brother first, hugs him tightly, and begins scratching him affectionately. The guy goes completely limp and submissive. Apologies are made, but Genzo doesn't care. Spotting another Beastgirl girl being mistreated nearby, he charges in again. The man harassing her is Edgar, an acquaintance of Misa and her companion. Edgar mistakes Genzo for a weirdo, seeing how the wolf boy is lying on the ground with a dazed, oddly happy face. Genzo then lands a finishing move on Edgar, just like he did to the princess. Misa and her companion have no choice but to flee with him. Misa swears revenge. Suddenly, Genzo remembers he forgot to pet the cat ears on the other Beastgirl girl and chases after her. The girl, named Shigure, stops and thanks him for saving her. She explains she was sold into slavery after borrowing money from Edgar to start a business, but was tricked and robbed by humans, leaving her unable to repay the debt. Grateful to Genzo for saving her, she says she has nothing to offer in return. Genzo then jokingly but sincerely suggests she could repay him with her body because to him, she's more of a wolf than a girl. Meanwhile, Edgar and the wolf boy return to their hideout, furious. They hatch a plan to steal Genzo's dog. Genzo and Shigure later go to the Adventurers Guild to register and earn money. The guild master looks at Genzo warily, not understanding what he's saying due to his odd manner. But when a monster attack is mentioned, Genzo rushes off excitedly, and the master realizes he might be braver than he looks. They're taken to a forest. The guild member offers Genzo a weapon for protection, but Genzo, a wrestler, sees using weapons as a disgrace. In the forest, Genzo becomes ecstatic upon seeing a group of 5 three-headed dogs. Triple the joy. He identifies the alpha and charges in, forbidding anyone else from interfering. The others believe he's protecting them and are moved to tears. Genzo avoids hurting the dogs, wrestles the alpha, and manages to tame it. Soon, the entire pack follows his lead. At the end of the day, Genzo uses his reward to buy clothes and treats Shigure to a big meal. With enough money for a while, he decides he will create a world where humans and Beastgirl live together peacefully. He'll show everyone how amazing Beastgirl truly are. While Genzo goes on about the wonders of animals, others in the guild complain about being wounded by monsters and vow to kill them if threatened. Genzo sits there, completely unfazed, a calm heart in a chaotic world. He later shares with Shigure his dream of opening a pet shop. She doesn't even know what that is. When he explains, she learns that he plans to capture monsters, collect rewards from the guild, and then raise and sell them. Seeing how profitable it could be, she joins him. But to carry out the plan, they need more money. Shigure officially asks to be part of Genzo's team. Genzo agreed without hesitation. He and Shigeru headed straight for the quest board to look for new jobs. There, Genzo spotted a book, and a nearby adventurer explained it contained detailed information on all known magical beasts, exactly what Genzo needed. But the man then casually called him a beast slayer for taking down 5 three-headed dogs on his own. Enraged by the insult, how dare someone call an animal lover a slayer, Genzo punched the guy straight into a wall. However, the real problem now was that Genzo still couldn't read the local language. So he asked Shigeru to pick the most lucrative quest. She selected a high-paying job, slaying a fire-breathing lizard. When Genzo saw the illustration of the lizard in the book, he started drooling. At that moment, the guild's top-ranked party approached and asked to team up with Genzo to split the reward. Genzo was about to accept until their leader mentioned killing the lizard. Without hesitation, Genzo spun the man in the air and launched him away. Genzo and Shigeru then set off to complete the quest on their own. Along the way, Shigeru laid eyes on the legendary sword the other party's leader dropped and couldn't resist swiping it. They reached the volcanic area where the fire lizard lived. After taking a full blast of flame to the face, Genzo wrestled the beast into submission and brought it back alive. At the guild, the receptionist, amazed by Genzo's strength, accidentally called him Beast Slayer, which triggered Genzo again. The poor man was left in a pile of bruises. With the reward money, Genzo and Shigeru finally bought a small farm to live in and raise magical creatures. They then went to the bank to get a loan and start their business, only to learn they'd need to pay a 20% licensing fee just to be allowed to operate. With that sum being too high, they put the business on hold for now. The two moved into their new home. While Genzo worked hard cleaning out the barn, Shigeru tried to slack off by running to the guild to look for a quest, leaving him behind to deal with what turned out to be a giant ant infestation. As Genzo was working, a neighbor came by to greet him. She was a beastkin and Genzo immediately took a liking to her. But just as she left, he heard his dog barking. He found a girl half-dragon, unconscious, lying nearby. He brought her inside. When she woke up, she introduced herself as Linda, a normal dragonkin. Grateful for being saved, she accepted a fish dish from Genzo. At first, she thought Genzo was offering her his dog to eat, and almost bit it until Genzo snatched it back just in time. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Linda devoured the fish. Seeing all the animals Genzo had, she casually suggested eating them all. Genzo, of course, firmly refused and explained he was going to open a pet shop to raise and train animals, not serve them as meals. Linda then asked to buy Genzo's dog so she could raise it herself. But before she could finish, Genzo yanked the dog away again. He handed her the book and asked her to point out the dragon species page. She dodged the question and backed off. Soon after, Shigeru returned. She smelled the faint scent of dragon and questioned Genzo. Upon hearing the full story, she took him to the guild. The guild master reported a string of nighttime attacks on travelers by a mysterious creature. Genzo, uninterested at first, perked up the moment he heard the attacks might involve a magical beast. The latest victim described the attacker's shape and markings. It matched that of a dragon. Genzo was immediately hyped. He and Shigeru set out to investigate. Meanwhile, Harem, now armed with a new sword, also wanted to join Genzo to slay the dragon. He was swiftly knocked out by another of Genzo's signature blows. Shigeru took advantage of the moment to steal Harem's new sword as well. The guildmaster, still believing in Genzo's ability, gave his blessing but once again let slip the forbidden nickname. Genzo punched him too. Even the latest victim nearly said the name, and got a full dragon dive from Genzo in return. Shigeru mentioned that the scent of the attacker was similar to the smell she picked up back at their house. Genzo suited up in his old wrestling costume and headed out to set a trap. Linda, hilariously, walked right into it. Since Genzo wore a mask, she didn't recognize him. He admitted to setting the trap, and she freaked out, thinking he was going to do something indecent. But Genzo calmly replied, "I love animals. You're safe." Genzo and Shigeru sneak back home, trying to avoid attention. They remove Genzo's mask only once indoors. Linda nearly reveals her identity, but Shigeru stops her until Linda finally confesses. She's from one of the 4 clans that worship the Demon King. Just then, Camilla storms in, mistaking Genzo for someone else until he removes the mask. Camilla starts scolding Linda for being involved in monster slaying, threatening to expose her clan. Genzo interrupts by splashing holy water in Camilla's face, sending her into spasms. He even jokingly attempts to feed her garlic to silence her. Linda steps in, begging for mercy. She explains she left the palace because she hated court life and ran away in search of freedom and purpose. Her destiny, she realized, was with them, especially with their dog. Though they still owe her money, Linda says she only needs food and shelter. So Camilla begrudgingly agrees to let her stay and promises to inform their master. Camilla, still recovering, confesses she orchestrated the earlier monster attack. Genzo, furious, knocks her out cold again. Suddenly, Princess Athena appears, the same princess previously slammed by Genzo. Still bitter, she's now being mocked at court as the Princess of the Rear. She's hell-bent on finding and humiliating Genzo in revenge. Meanwhile, Genzo contends with runaway expenses. Linda eats non-stop, Camilla sleeps all day, and Shigeru's thrift goods barely earn any money. He's splurging on exotic pet food, and a guild friend advises him to assert her role as the true head of the house and manager. At home, Genzo returns with yet another stray cat, aiming to charm the beastkin neighbor. Camilla wants to hire an artist to paint Linda, but is rejected. She also offers to buy cat supplies. Genzo throws them out. Suddenly, a bank officer shows up to claim the loan deposit for the pet shop. Genzo panics and tries to refuse the loan, but then rallies everyone to work harder. Camilla resists until Genzo threatens her again. Ouch. So they organize tasks. Genzo handles heavy labor. Linda enters an eating contest. She wins money by eating. Shigeru works seriously, while Camilla gets chased out by the booth attendees. At day's end, they tally finances. Linda's eating contest put them in deficit. Genzo got kicked out halfway. Camilla was mistaken for a streetwalker and booted. Shigeru brings home a strange bird. Shigeru almost plucks it to cook. They quarrel, but Linda intervenes, scolding them for not hearing the booths. She'd eaten all the bark. They report their trouble to guild leader, who assigns Shigeru a big paying mission: exterminate a pair of magical toads. Genzo, excited to keep them alive and raise them, volunteers. A rival high-tier party tries to hijack the job. Genzo flips their leader again, grabs the sword, and storms off. Camilla initially refuses to tag along, but Linda insists, so she's dragged along too. At the toad nest, the book reveals the magical toad gives birth to twins, but only the strong one survives in the wild. They arrive to find the mother forcing the babies to fight. Instantly, Genzo snares the smaller one and flees. The 2 large toads chase them. Camilla tries to hold them off, but gets smashed and captured. Genzo and Linda refuse to leave her behind. Genzo buys time by promising Camilla dinner. Then, during the fight, Genzo grapples the big toad, but gets slammed against a rock. Linda, enraged, sinks her teeth into the beast, then carries both battered toads home. They bury Camilla's unconscious body to recover and place Genzo alongside Peter like to come around. They didn't get paid, and the surviving toad is growing fast, needing costly food. Shigeru quickly flips swords she'd stolen from the rival party to pay bills. Meanwhile, news spreads: Genzo has disappeared. His rival, who's dedicated his youth to beating him, sits idling. No one dares enter the ring until it's Genzo or no fight. Back at home, Genzo admires his new pet scroll when he's called for a job. He's torn, but Shigeru insists, promising to look after the animals. When they step outside, Misei's siblings appear to kidnap Genzo's dog for revenge. They plan to bait the dog with meat, but the dog scrambles off into the forest with Genzo. Genzo wants to turn back, but Shigeru accuses him of lying there on a plant-related mission. Eber returns and finds them motionless, apparently mesmerized by cuteness. The wolf boy got delayed petting a puppy. Shigeru dragged away, and both got beaten by the giant ant plague. They finally track Genzo and realize the target crop is hideous. Genzo says he did it for passion, not money. Camilla rolls her eyes. They bicker again. Shiger intervenes. Sifting through plant rumbling confusion, they realize Linda ate everything again. At home, they learn the mural of Genzo and the wolf boy drawn by ants went public. Genzo stacks the wolf boy outside and recalls his wrestling roots. Meanwhile, Genzo's rival sees a therapist about PTSD. Professionally, the doc suggests new hobbies, but obsession lingers. Then, the final twist. The fourth clan summons a warrior to challenge the hero's competitor. That warrior is none other than Genzo's eternal rival, going by the alias Mao. The faction believes its destiny to defeat their summoned hero, Rona, their champion, who hates Linda for beating her in a past sword duel, steps forward. She claims she's tracked Linda's weakness. Linda's only strength is her appetite. At a grand banquet a few years ago, Rona beat Linda in swordplay, but Linda could eat unimaginable volumes and still stand her ground. Now, at a party, they meet again, but Linda barely remembers Rona. Rona taunts Camilla as a low-class vampire servant beneath Linda, planning to install her own spy in Linda's home. But Linda refuses. The four clans' politics just got hotter. Plot thickens, but she still wouldn't change her mind. Joanna challenged Linda. If Joanna's maid won, Linda would have to fire Camilla. But if Camilla won, Joanna would admit Camilla was better than her maid. Linda immediately accepted, partly because she was in a hurry to eat, and partly to protect her subordinate. The next day, both parties arrived at a rocky mountain area to meet. Joanna reiterated the conditions once more before they began. Linda accepted, allowing them to fight. Joanna's maid, Rose, showed no hesitation and was confident she would win. Her confidence was well-founded, as Rose fought until Camilla collapsed. Even so, Camilla refused to give up, crying and insisting she couldn't lose. But the more she stubbornly resisted, the more pain she endured, so Linda stopped the fight and admitted Camilla had lost. However, Linda still wanted to keep Camilla, which violated their agreement, so Joanna demanded compensation. Linda bowed her head, pleading for Camilla. Camilla, feeling victorious over Linda, got into her carriage and left. But halfway there, Linda blocked the carriage. She declared that her family was a formidable warrior clan, and they would be enraged if they knew one of their own had been humiliated. Therefore, she had come to seek justice for Camilla. She transformed into her full dragon form and challenged Joanna. What followed must have been terrible, as Joanna still harbored resentment to this day. Joanna learned that Linda had left home the moment the hero was summoned. She thought Linda was more cunning than her gluttonous appearance suggested. She still believed Linda hadn't found the hero yet and planned to eliminate the hero before Linda could. Meanwhile, Kenzo had been taken to the armory. However, like Game Show, he considered using weapons against the rules. The next morning, Kenzo went to a pile of dirt to dig Camilla out for a mission. But she kept procrastinating, so Kenzo added more dirt to bury her completely. Linda watched, remembering when she had just avenged Camilla and returned. Though Camilla was foolish, she was the closest person to Linda. A few days later, while Kenzo was tending to his beasts as usual, a female hunter suddenly arrived at his house looking for him. She boldly spoke a forbidden name, causing Kenzo to net her. After being released, Camilla advised Celeste that whenever she was netted, she should eat the food given to her, as struggling to escape would only cause more pain. Kenzo wanted to know why she was there, and she replied that she was new to town and had heard from the guildmaster that Kenzo was the strongest here, so she wanted to ask him to be her master. She had a reason to become stronger, but Kenzo refused. Celeste pleaded, willing to pay any price to be his disciple, but Kenzo still refused because she wasn't a beast person. Suddenly, Kenzo touched Celeste and felt something unusual. He called her back and pressed her, learning that Celeste was also a beast person, belonging to the reptilian tribe. However, her scales were only on her stomach, not her entire body like her ancestors. Kenzo agreed to take her as a disciple, but Linda and Ginger advised her to reconsider. Celeste was adamant because she wanted the strength to elevate her people to stand equal with humans. So, Kenzo agreed to train with her on the mountain the next day. Since Celeste only had scales on her stomach and back, Kenzo wanted her to train exercises related to those two parts. Ginger wanted her to train her arms and legs by running like herself. Linda wanted her to eat all sorts of things to grow bigger. Camilla wanted her to use her beauty to attract others. A day of training passed, and Celeste could now use a crushing throw like Kenzo's. After some time, Celeste transformed into a wrestler like Kenzo. But she thought it was a joke, as she didn't want to become such a strange wrestler. Ginger asked Celeste why she wanted to be strong, and she began to explain. But before she finished, Kenzo became enraged. He stormed into the guild, demanding the guildmaster show himself, or he would deal with everyone there. They tried to calm him, but he couldn't be calmed and punched them one by one. The guildmaster was forced to appear. However, as soon as he emerged, the entire guild collapsed. After sitting down to talk, Kenzo explained that his disciple, Celeste, had been harassed and taunted by the hunters there. That's why she had been training to fight back. But after training, she no longer considered what happened to be so serious and now only wanted to focus on training to become as skilled and amazing as Kenzo. The entire hunter guild bowed and apologized to Celeste, admitting they had been hunting poorly recently and had taken their frustration out on her. But Kenzo didn't accept the apology and dragged the entire guild to the arena. He wanted Celeste to have a match with them. Celeste still tried to let it go, but Kenzo insisted she had to fight, or he would execute each of them. Celeste, thinking Kenzo cared deeply for her, agreed to listen to him. One hunter stepped forward to receive her attack, and thanks to her training, Celeste fought on par with a skilled hunter. Just as she gained the upper hand, Camilla incited her to use her seductive charm, causing Celeste to be knocked back, losing her weapon. She quickly retrieved it, almost flipping the script. But just as the young man swung his sword, Kenzo reminded Celeste of her lesson. She quickly circled around him and threw him backward, exactly as she had learned. Even though it ended peacefully, Kenzo still wouldn't let it go. The guild explained that the reason they had been annoyed recently was that while hunting, some wild-looking person wearing a mask and a cloak appeared, attacked them, and stole their prey. The girls guessed who it was. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Kenzo let it go. Upon returning, the three girls wanted to know if he had done it, but Kenzo kept deflecting. Suddenly, someone from the bank came to see him. When he got home, he didn't realize that the bank was about to organize a tournament for entertainment and business. The three girls all saw this as a good opportunity, but Kenzo refused. The man offered to pay Kenzo if he participated. The feeling of earning money as a wrestler in the past returned, exciting Kenzo a bit, so he agreed to participate. A few days later, the arena was set up, but Kenzo still felt something was missing. He thought there weren't enough animals, so the manager agreed to let more beast persons participate. Kenzo accidentally ran into his old neighbor, so he went to his house, had a match with him, and then invited him to compete in the tournament. The neighbor had also been a combative person in the past and now wanted to rediscover that feeling. Kenzo then went to find the Misa brothers. The wolf brother was so scared of Kenzo that as soon as he saw him, he cowered and hid under his blanket, so Misa went instead. While walking around, Kenzo met the Ogre Guild, who were helping plant trees, and invited them to participate as well. He went home and dragged Camilla along too, because she was useless at home. And just like that, enough people were gathered for the tournament. At the arena, Haza ran up to participate, but was carrying a weapon and Kenzo knocked him out again. Ginger, once again, conveniently disarmed him. Kenzo then explained the rules, but a suspicious individual had appeared nearby. Princess Athena, still searching for the hero's whereabouts, was coincidentally brought to Kenzo by soldiers for the tournament. The fighters then sparred, and everyone enjoyed it, but Kenzo still wasn't satisfied. He explained the rules in more detail for everyone to compete fairly. Kenzo noticed Ginger also had a stall and went to check it out. She was only selling souvenirs and t-shirts. Kenzo seemed exhausted from teaching, explaining rules thoroughly, and writing the script for the commentators. The tournament then began. We'll skip the opening matches and go straight to the match between the neighbor and Celeste. Having learned the techniques, Celeste quickly took down the neighbor and won easily, despite the rules. However, Kenzo was still not satisfied because, according to him, it was only fun with evenly matched opponents. The next match was Kenzo's. He had to team up with Camilla to fight Hans and Misei. Since Camilla had no one better, only Kenzo remained as her partner. They kept bickering, and in the middle of the fight, Camilla intentionally kicked Kenzo in the face instead of the opponent. They squabbled on the field, allowing their opponents to counterattack. Kenzo and Camilla then turned back, each dealing with one opponent, and defeated both Hans and Misei. Suddenly, the wolf youth showed up again and was forced onto the field. The commentator claimed the wolf was Kenzo's rival, having overcome his psychological trauma to be there. Whatever the wolf said, no one listened, and he was put in for Hans, but put in here meant taking the blows. By the end of the day, the tournament was a success, and everyone decided to throw a party as promised. The manager paid Kenzo handsomely, but Ginger received a pile of bills. She went home and began scolding them all as the three of them had spent all the money. Leo had destroyed everyone's stalls, Linda had eaten non-stop, and Camilla had guzzled a ton of alcohol. A few days later, Camilla reverted to her lazy habits and was caught by Kenzo in a grapple. She was forced to walk the dog. As soon as she returned, she cried a river, having been teased by the crowd who had witnessed her being thrown right in front of the door. Just then, the princess from before returned to see Kenzo. He didn't recognize her and was even pushed to the ground by Linda and Camilla, who thought he was doing something perverted to her. Kenzo tried to explain, but Ginger advised him to just surrender, and she would visit him daily. But now, when Kenzo looked closer, he remembered she was the princess who had summoned him here. So, he circled behind her and delivered another piledriver in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Joanna was taking Mao somewhere when three beast persons blocked their way. Mao took the opportunity to show off his martial arts, but after defeating the three monkeys, he became traumatized after encountering a creature that looked very similar to Kenzo's dog. Back with Kenzo, Ginger advised him to apologize to Athena, but he claimed she deserved it. Athena introduced herself and said Kenzo was the hero, but Camilla insisted he was a weird pervert, not a hero. They started arguing, and Athena wanted Kenzo to follow her to defeat the Demon Lord. Camilla defended the Demon Lord, claiming the hero was just a bloodthirsty maniac who liked to kill beast persons. But Athena argued that the Demon Lord was the leader of disgusting demon beasts. Hearing that, Kenzo was even less inclined to join, as he only wanted humans and beast persons to live together. Athena believed he had fallen and intended to kill him and summon a new hero. But as soon as she opened the door for her soldiers, Kenzo charged out and pile-drived the entire squad. He then grabbed Athena's hand and spun her around like a pillow. Meanwhile, Joanna had summoned an army of beast persons, preparing to attack. Mao was excited to lead such an army. In the following days, Athena repeatedly came to beg Kenzo for his help, but each time she was pile-drived and left. The next morning, Linda found Kenzo deep in thought and assumed he was in love. Ginger asked what was wrong, but she knew he would say something foolish, and he did, wanting to know what the Demon Lord was like. Ginger told him to ask at the guild, so he ran straight to the guild to ask about the Demon Lord. The guild thought he wanted to become the Demon Lord and wanted to support him. Hans also wanted to help with his new sword. He was immediately knocked out by Kenzo, and the sword once again ended up with Ginger. Kenzo declared he would deal with the Demon Lord alone and forbade anyone from interfering. They thought he was strong enough to consider the Demon Lord prey and constantly called Kenzo a hero. Yet, when he returned, he still had no information about the Demon Lord. Linda and Camilla were worried about this and decided to hide the Demon Lord's identity from Kenzo. Camilla was confident she had a way. She gave Kenzo characteristics of various creatures for him to combine, but he found his own drawing to be beautiful. Just then, Athena arrived. She saw Kenzo's messy drawing and immediately threw it away, enraging him and causing him to pile-drive her onto the floor. Athena sat up and announced that the Demon Lord's faction had summoned a demon lord from another world. Hearing that, Kenzo drooled with anticipation, as he was about to have two creatures to conquer. Meanwhile, Mao had led his army to attack the ogre camp. Mao was just like Kenzo, charging straight in to challenge and ask where Kenzo was. The leader didn't like his behavior and decided to fight him. Later that day, Kenzo and the three girls were searching when two ogres ran up to report. Kenzo quickly rushed over and found the leader injured. They sketched a portrait of the attacker, and Kenzo was surprised to see it was his archenemy. The next morning, Athena came to inform them about this new demon lord. But Kenzo still didn't care because, though he knew him, he wasn't his concern. Even though Athena tried to tell him that Mao would surely attack the town, Kenzo ignored her and planned to walk his dog. But when he went outside, he was horrified to find his dog had been stolen. Meanwhile, Mao and Joanna had discovered two individuals and retrieved a flyer from the previous tournament. Mao was interested because it accurately described the moves Kenzo could use, while Joanna was happy because Camilla was in the picture, and Linda must have been eliminated by the hero. Kenzo was frantically searching for his dog. The three girls also split up to look. Ginger followed a scent around the house, but the scent didn't lead anywhere. Just then, the bank manager passed by and remembered seeing the dog at a local noble's house. They went there, and sure enough, the dog was there, but the noble had bought it, so it wouldn't be returned easily. Athena wanted to know how much he paid, and the amount was truly enormous. Athena rushed back to the palace to get the money, forcing Kenzo into debt and burdening him with the task of defeating the demon lord. Meanwhile, Kenzo tried to call his dog back, but it loved its food bowl more than Kenzo. He accepted letting this family keep the dog if it loved it more there. The daughter of the house felt sorry for Kenzo, seeing him cry so much. The little girl used her tears to pressure her father to return the dog, but the father didn't want it to be that easy, so he demanded they pay the full price. The daughter's tears pressured him further, so he reduced the price, but even then, they didn't have enough money. Kenzo accepted the truth and decided to leave the dog at the little girl's house because, ultimately, what he wanted was to help people bond more with animals. When Ginger saw how sad he was, she took out all her savings to help Kenzo redeem the dog. He went and redeemed it, allowing the little girl to come visit. When they asked the noble who sold him the dog, he said it was 2 beast persons and 1 masked person. Kenzo realized who it was and immediately ran off. The 3 were celebrating their successful venture when Death himself arrived and beat them up. Athena arrived with the money, but it was too late. As the group returned, they saw 2 beast persons in front of the house and, upon entering, realized the other guild was already waiting inside. The 2 sides greeted each other, and Joanna accused Linda of being a traitor for cooperating with the hero, but Linda said it was a difficult reason to explain. The 2 sides kept arguing, so Mao wanted everyone to shut up. He challenged Kenzo. Just then, the manager arrived. He saw this as a good opportunity to organize another tournament. Ginger quickly joined, seeing a chance to earn money. Linda also joined because she was about to eat. Everyone joined, so Kenzo had no reason to refuse. That night, Camilla begged Kenzo to teach her how to become a professional wrestler because she wanted to settle her grudge with Rose. The next morning, Camilla asked Kenzo when they would train, and he was angry because he had said they would train early in the morning. Yet when he called her, she was still sleeping soundly. The 2 then reluctantly began training. Meanwhile, the 2 girls and the manager were still discussing how to build the stadium. They were so engrossed in their work that they didn't hear Camilla's screams outside. Camilla asked for a break, but Kenzo refused because she was too weak. He wanted to know how strong Camilla's opponent was to set up a training plan. But when she tried to speak, Linda stopped her. Meanwhile, Mao and the other 2 were excitedly looking forward to the match, confident they would win. Camilla's training session ended there. He let her continue practicing on her own because Ginger had called him somewhere. Camilla wanted to drink some alcohol and then continue training, but Kenzo wouldn't allow it. He wanted her to be serious if she wanted to win. Inside, Kenzo was conflicted because they didn't have enough people for the 5 matches they wanted, and currently, they only had enough for 4. So, Kenzo went to find the Misa brothers and invited them to participate. They were still scared, but Ginger promised generous rewards, so they reluctantly agreed to join. They also invited him to participate. He thought that maybe he should bring in more people and turn it into a team battle. Just then, Athena ran up, so they asked her to do a few things. The girls then went to distribute advertisements to invite people to watch. They also planned carefully, and then built the arena. Stalls continuously sprang up. The contestants also trained diligently, and the day of the event arrived. Everyone was fully prepared. The contestants were also checked on by Kenzo before being sent into the arena. The manager encouraged them by promising many rewards, but they were all fighting out of passion, or at least that's what Kenzo taught them. But now Kenzo was also fighting for money to open a shop. The stands were now packed, so the opening match began. It was Celeste, wearing a wrestling outfit. Athena didn't discuss strategy. She got promoted and was promptly knocked out of the ring. Hans took charge on the stage and immediately switched places with Celeste, ending the first match with a Kenzo win. The second match featured the neighbor and the ogre, who also quickly won. The third match was the Misa brothers against 2 burly beast men, who quickly overpowered them and were once again beaten. Now, for the fourth match, a rematch between the 2 female vampires. This time, Camilla wasn't at a disadvantage because they were fighting hand to hand, not with weapons. Just as I said that, Camilla was cornered, but she remembered Kenzo's teaching. No matter how strong you are, there will be a moment of carelessness. But wait, Camilla was knocked down, and Rose lunged to finish her, only to be flipped around, put in a headlock, and slammed to the ground. Camilla thought she had won and stood up to celebrate, not paying attention to Kenzo outside. He wanted Camilla to pin her opponent until the referee arrived, and so the lesson taught backfired as Camilla was the one who became careless. She was tightly embraced by Rose and flipped backward. Camilla lost simply due to overconfidence, so remember, don't rest on your laurels. Despite the loss, Kenzo praised her for fighting very well. Linda didn't scold her either, as Camilla had done her best. Now, for the final match between Kenzo and Mao. Everyone was looking forward to an exciting fight between the leader and the heaviest combatant of the 2 factions. Both entered the ring and were introduced by the commentator. The bell rang, but neither charged, as both understood each other well and couldn't afford any mistakes. Mao was waiting for an opening when Kenzo charged first, surprising Mao. Kenzo was forced to fight because the audience had fallen asleep. They exchanged blows, and as they fought, they recounted how they had ended up there. But in reality, both were just verbally sparring, and the guildmaster told them to stop joking and actually fight. They genuinely lunged at each other, fighting and explaining their reasons for wanting to win. When Mao managed to take down Kenzo, the dog startled him. He was very afraid of dogs, and during his previous training, he had even gone to the zoo to get used to them. But he was so scared that he went into the lion enclosure and punched all the lions there. He wasn't afraid of fierce beasts, yet he was afraid of a small dog. Ginger quickly spotted this weakness. Joanna and Rose also noticed and secretly lured the dog away. Mao, seeing the danger gone, let loose. Kenzo, seeing his dog being taken, immediately chased after them to get it back. Mao also chased after him. The Misa Guild saw the whole group running towards them and joined in, chasing after Kenzo. Kenzo quickly got his dog back and had the ants in the house guard it. The 2 fighters then charged at each other again, only to be sent flying to opposite sides of the stadium. The 2 sides couldn't hold back anymore and lunged at each other, punching. Stalls were continuously smashed. Linda and Camilla took the opportunity to grab all the food and beer. Ginger was horrified as her money was about to disappear down the drain. The manager, who had been interested in money, was now interested in fighting. While everyone was brawling, the two fighters returned to the ring. Kenzo was knocked down and took a powerful piledriver, but he quickly bounced back, picked up Mao, and delivered his signature move. He held Mao until the referee arrived. As soon as Kenzo won, everyone stopped fighting and cheered raucously. The victory officially belonged to Kenzo's team. He told Mao that if he wanted to fight again, he could come anytime, as Kenzo would always be ready. The manager then brought the prize money. Kenzo thought he could now realize his dream. Joanna and Rose were so furious that they returned to their country. Linda reminded both of them that she would stay to keep an eye on the hero, to prevent him from touching the Demon Lord. Now for the money distribution. Ginger went to collect the money, which exceeded their target, but Ginger's share was just a stack of bills. Because Kenzo and everyone else had caused too much damage, plus the amount of alcohol and food the other two had plundered, Ginger was left with nothing but debt. She stormed back to the guild and found everyone happily eating and drinking. She received another bill, but had no choice but to accept it, as everyone was happy, and she didn't want to spoil the mood. The next morning, she sold Kenzo's punching bag and earned a decent sum. Mao left to train, preparing to return and fight again. Meanwhile, Kenzo's group continued their lives of raising beasts and working to earn money as usual.